Is it really possible to make a full-time living from a blog? How did buying a home cause one guy to get his finances in order? And can a budget really be sexy? We'll answer these questions and more on this, the 34th episode of the DoughRoller Podcast.
Welcome to the DoughRoller Podcast, where the best thing money can buy is financial freedom. We help you make more, spend less, and invest the rest. And now your host, Rob Berger.
Whether you're just starting out, buried under a mountain of debt, or well on your way to financial freedom, this is the podcast to help you take your finances to the next level. Welcome to day 27 of the 31-day money challenge. I have a special episode for you today. We're going to be interviewing a friend of mine, a fellow blogger. His name is Jay. You may know him from Budgets Are Sexy. And he's agreed to come on the show. And really the focus of today's episode is going to be how to make a side income. Now, in Jay's case, as you'll hear, a lot of that comes from work that he does online. But that's sort of a bit of the focus. But, you know, really the bigger goal is to help give you some motivation, some inspiration, and maybe some concrete ideas on how you might be able to make some extra income. You know, one of the things that I found in our finances, there's just something, I think it's as much psychological as anything, but if you find a way to make some extra income above and beyond your 9-to-5 job, and even if it's only a couple $100s a month or whatever, you tend to treat that money differently than if you got a raise, say, of the same amount from your day job. I don't know why that is exactly, but you tend to set that money aside when you've earned it from some from a side hustle, as people like to call it, or some other side income. And it's almost as if you want to treat this extra money you've got. It's special. It's different than your check that goes into your direct deposit into your checking account every month. This is special, and you tend to treat it that way, and you tend to use it, I think, tend to spend it a little more wisely for some reason. Maybe there's a good lesson here about how we should handle our regular paychecks. But I know for me, it was, let's make sure we don't waste this. We've come up with this way to make some side income. Let's make sure we put it to good use. And so for us, it was paying down debt initially, and then eventually saving, and now, paying down our mortgage. But it's funny how just psychologically it's just a different feel when you earn that extra income in some special way. And I thought Jay would be the perfect guy to come on and talk about his story and how you'll hear how it went more. It went from just making a few extra bucks to actually full-time living, and you'll hear his story in just a minute. So that's sort of the goal of today. We're going to hear from Jay, but sort of the bigger idea is, what are some ways that you can make some extra income for whatever purpose, whether it's, again, to get out of debt, start saving more for retirement, saving for your children's education, or perhaps someday quitting your day job. So that's our goal for today. We'll get to it in just a minute. First, let me thank our sponsors. Betterment's an online platform that helps invest your money, and they do it by taking your money and investing it in stock and bond ETFs. These are very low-cost ETFs. All you have to do is pick the percentage you want in stocks, the percentage you want in bonds. Betterment does the rest. They rebalance for you, and they reinvest your dividends automatically. You can check them out at betterment.com. And Personal Capital, they're a free online tool that helps aggregate all of your investment accounts into one place. You can check your performance across all of your accounts, retirement and non-retirement. You can also see what your asset allocation is across all of your accounts, as well as what they're costing you. So you can check them out at personalcapital.com. So I want to get right into the interview. I think Jay's a lot of fun. He's a crazy guy. I think you'll enjoy it. So let's turn to that interview now. Jay, welcome to the show.
Hello, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Thanks for having me.
Well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time. For our listeners, you and I have known each other, online several years, but then I guess we met at the very first FinCon 3 years ago. Is that right? Or 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's been 3 years now. That's pretty cool.
I know. It's amazing how quickly time goes by.
Yeah.
Well, I thought you would be a perfect guest on the show for part of our 31-day money challenge, because I wanted to devote a number of shows to how folks can make extra income, whether it's something that ultimately becomes sort of their full-time career, like it has in your case, as we'll find out here in a minute, or even if it's just side income to help pay the car payment or save for retirement or whatever. And, knowing you like I do, I mean, you're the connector. You seem to know everybody. If I need something, I just call you up, and you can always put me in the right. And you've always got a project going on. There's always some new venture you're pursuing, and so I just thought you'd be perfect for this. So let me kind of just begin. Tell us, about yourself and how it is you came to start making money online.
Yeah, so I'm Jay. Nice to meet you all listening. I kind of fell into the whole blogging thing by accident. I went to rent a house, or actually rent a 2-bedroom apartment about 6 years ago, and found a house that I wanted instead, and didn't have a budget, didn't have anything. I just figured, I'll just buy a house. I got approved, and the buying the house process kind of threw me for a loop and kind of got me to stop and realize I needed to pay attention to my money. I went online and Googled, how do I do a budget? And I kept coming across all these blogs. I didn't know what they were. And I thought, man, people are just disclosing their net worth and, disclosing all whatever works for them versus like a typical website or a company. And I fell in love with it. So I said, well, hey, I can do what these, bloggers are doing. I'm not as smart or as, I don't like to write for, writing itself isn't my strong suit, but I can get my thoughts out. So I started Budgets Are Sexy, 6 years ago now. Started just giving my thoughts, didn't really care. I'd curse. I would just do whatever just to see if I could do it,
What was your job? What was your career, when you started Budgets Are Sexy? What were you doing during the day?
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of flip-flopping around, and at the point of Budgets Are Sexy, I landed at a startup doing mobile technology. Like when ringtones were really popular, our company started getting into that stuff. And we made a killing, and then the economy came and crashed, and it was kind of crazy. So I was doing customer service, I was doing graphic design, I was managing a whole bunch of projects. So I was kind of like a mishmash of stuff at a startup, which at startups you have to do a lot of that.
Yeah. Had you ever started a blog before? Did you know how to start a blog when you started Budgets Are Sexy?
No, I hadn't done anything. And actually, the funny thing is, I was at work when I had the idea, because all of my colleagues, like on their downtime, they'd be on MySpace, and that was popular, and Friendster and all this stuff. And I was like, man, there's got to be a better way to use my time, I mean, after a couple of years of doing that, of course. And so that's when I kind of thought, well, let's start a blog up instead of going on MySpace, all day long. And that's kind of what did it, that and buying the house.
So if you'd never started a blog before, did you just get on Google and start searching on how to start a blog? How did you figure it out?
I did. I was on Google. I was other blogs are out there. I started looking at what they were doing, and that was back when Blogger.com was pretty popular and Blogspot and all that. So I got my own blog name, and I started, just pretty much learning from scratch and just researching online. And honestly, my site, even now it's not the best, but it was pretty crappy in the beginning. I just got it out the door because I have ADD. I didn't know how long it was going to last, how much fun I was going to have. And after I started interacting with other people and, got my first comment, and I said, oh man, this is cool. I'm all for this,
Right. Well, how did, by the way, that's what I love about stories like yours. And mine is the same. I had never started a blog when I started DoughRoller in 2007, but you take something, you don't know how to do it, you get on Google, you figure it out, and lo and behold, 6 years later, you're doing it full time as your living, as your job. I just think those stories are great. How in the world did you come up with the name of your blog?
All right, this is funny. So this was back when blog rolls are super popular, and now I love blog rolls, and a lot of bloggers don't do them anymore for whatever reason. But so I thought first I wanted Saving is Sexy. I wanted, actually, back in the day, Justin Timberlake's I'm Bringing Sexy Back song was out.
Okay.
And I was like, man, that's so cool. I want to bring sexy back in like the finance world, right? Because most bloggers, and it's good, finance in general is kind of boring, right? And money and people talk about them, that's fine. But I wanted to be the little, crazier one online. So I thought, I need sexy in there because that's going to get attention. And then I thought Saving is Sexy is cool, but it had been taken. And so then I thought, well, what's going to get me at like the top of the blog roll, right? Because that's what everyone is doing. So I was like, I needed something close for like A or B, and budgeting came out. I thought, well, crap, budget. All right, let's go. Budgets Are Sexy. And literally, I just started my budget and was paying attention, so it was a good time. But it's so sexy is what really I think helped grow it, to be honest with you.
So you rejected asset allocation is sexy, and you went for budgets are
I still don't
sexy.
know what asset allocation is.
Well, you ought to listen to the next few episodes of my podcast. Anyway, I'm looking at your site now. It describes you as the Miley Cyrus of finance. That's something.
Oh my gosh, yes. So I've had the same tagline for years. It was some quote I made up of Benjamin Franklin saying that my blog was the best finance blog, which oddly enough people think are true sometimes, which is really strange to me. And then literally 2 weeks ago, someone had blogged about me, and some girl just got on and said, I don't know what the big deal is with this guy. Like, he seems nice, but he's kind of like the Miley Cyrus of finance, personal finance, or whatever. And I don't think she meant it as a compliment, obviously, but it perfectly described like what I love about online stuff. And Miley, hate her or love her, she's great at branding and marketing, and she's out there and crazy, and she sets herself apart from the other stuff. And I thought, like that does describe what I want and what I envision for my stuff. So I kind of just put it out there as a joke, and I've liked it, so it's been there for 2 weeks.
Yeah, no, that's great. Oh, okay. So about 6 years ago, so you said you were applying for a mortgage. Did things not go well during that process?
No, things went too well.
Oh.
I was never bad with money, but I didn't have much. And this was right before the crash. So this is when everyone and their mothers were getting approved for things left and right. So I got approved, I think for like $400,000. And I think my income at the time was maybe $80,000 and my wife's was maybe $50,000. So I think we're like $120,000, $130,000 total. And we got approved. We even got approved for $500,000. But at any rate, I thought, well, I don't want to get that much. But we ended up paying, $360,000, which I thought, well, it's below the 400 or the 500, whatever it was. But still, I was in no position to own. I grew up in the military lifestyle. I move every 1 or 2 years, based out of just habit and what I love. And so I kind of just got sucked in. They let me buy it. I had zero money down. I had a crazy interest only thing. Luckily, I could afford everything, but I didn't have any savings anymore, and it was just a big old craziness.
Yeah. So when you start, budgets are sexy. When you start it, you're not thinking of it as a business, right?
No, not at all. Not at all.
And,
I kind of wanted something that can help me be accountable. And again, I needed something to maintain like entertainment at work, so I didn't goof off. It was actually like a good goofing off. And one of the best things I thought from the blogging world was people that would show their net worth. MyMoneyBlog.com was one of the first ones I got attached to. And I just love that something that no one talks about or shares with anyone, maybe their spouse, that's it. Like how much is in your account, how much is on your credit cards, how much are in your investments, all that stuff. It's all right there. And that's, I thought, what, I want to do that. So I'm going to be anonymous like Jonathan used to be, and go that route.
Right.
And pasting your money online, no one was reading it at first. I could still do whatever I want. But over time, I started catching myself, well, crap, if I do this, it's going to affect my money, and then I'm going to have to report it. How am I going to back that up? Right?
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And sometimes I did it. Sometimes I was like, screw it. This is what I want to do. And if someone, comes at me, this is how I'll, back it up. Right.
So your own blog sort of became your accountability partner.
Yes, correct. Huh. Definitely. The blog definitely changed my finances, but just my life and career overall out of, accident, really.
So I'm looking at your site now, and in this article that's up today, which is, here in January, you've got your net worth.
Yeah, it's a good day to interview me.
Yeah, well, and it's reported down to the penny. And so, Mike, right. I mean, do your friends and family know that you blog? And does it get weird that you put all this out there and people that see it?
Yeah. So my immediate family knows. Not many of my friends. They know I blog, but no one. Still to this day, no one really knows what a blog is all the way, and they don't really pay attention. And when I say, "Oh, it's about money," they're like, I want to do something about sports or like sexy women or something, right? So they don't really pay attention. My family knows, but I don't think they really go to it that often. And that was one of the reasons I went anonymous too, just so I can have that privacy and be able to put what I want out there and knowing it's not going to affect too many people in my immediate, circles.
Right.
So, and I plan on doing it for a while. After this point, in the beginning, I didn't have that much. As it gets bigger, it does get a little weirder putting it out there. So it might change down the road, but that's like my favorite part of blogging. So I embrace it right now.
So when you started the blog, how often were you writing articles, and how did you find the time to do it?
So I found the time at work when I had downtimes. In the beginning, I spent maybe half an hour a day, and my goal, because all the other bloggers were doing it, was to just write one post a day, Monday through Friday. And I thought, you know what? All I want to do is that one post. As long as I do that, I'm on track, right? I'm proud of myself. And it's literally been 6 years. I've never missed a post ever in 6 years. One time, like I had a glitch and it went out late. But that was my thing that kept me going. And a lot of people make fun of me of it. And even myself, I can literally, like, I won't forget, but if I did and I was in bed and it was like 11 at night, the night before, I'll stay up all night until I get something out the door.
So you've never missed a day. That's impressive.
No. And that, I think, in the beginning it was easy to do. Now it's a lot harder for a number of reasons. But like the little habits, I mean, it really, like, I can't say enough about it. That's the one thing that kept me, adamant and kept going. And, you'll have a lot of people say, well, you should just write whenever you have something to say, or, you should spend time on one super duper awesome article, once a week rather than a whole bunch of piddly ones, right?
Right.
And I think everyone works different ways. For me, I don't like to write in general. I'm not the greatest writer. And if you tell me, pump out some big post and spend 20 hours on it, like I just can't. The only thing I knew how to do is get out a single thought in a handful of paragraphs, and then I'm good, right? That doesn't scare me.
Okay.
And so I did that, and it's been one a day at that level, and it's gone a little longer over time, but yeah, it's worked, and it's kept me on track.
So do you remember a time as you start your blog, do you remember a time when you first thought to yourself, hey, wait a minute, this might actually make me some money?
I do. As when I got an email that someone said, put this link in your sidebar and I'll give you $50.
Okay.
And I was like, what? I was like, why would you pay me $50 to put this? What is this weird link, right? I didn't know anything. And this is about 3 months into it. And I thought, well, hell, sure, I'll put that in there, and I just put it in there. And that's it. And then a week later, I got another one, right? And I thought, what is going on here? And literally, I just said, give me the money, I'll put it up. Wasn't harming anyone, right? I don't even know if people noticed. And then probably about after the 6th month, I kind of tracked everything, and I was on a walk with my mom, actually, and she was asking me how the blog stuff was and if I was making money, and I said, yeah, actually, I made like $750 now. And that to me was a big number because as a hobby, you don't expect to get paid, But then I thought, well, I guess if I keep doing this, I guess I'll just keep getting more money, right? That's like my mentality. And so I kept doing it. And then, eventually it got bigger, and I know you probably want to talk about at some point, I started getting into other online projects and other sites, and it kind of just blossomed from there.
Well, I do want to go into those other topics. Before we get to them, though, did you start making money on Budgets Are Sexy in ways other than links in the sidebar?
Originally it was links in the sidebar, and then I would do some graphic ads. Google has their AdSense revenue model stuff. I started doing that. And honestly, in the beginning, that's all I really did. It took me a while to realize that the links in the sidebar thing, there's obviously the pros are money real quick. A lot of cons come from it too, and that's probably a discussion for another day. But I realized that that's not the best way to make money as long as you want like a sustainable site long term. And so after about the 3rd year, I nixed that 100% and totally focused on affiliate marketing and ad networks.
Right.
Which is like graphical ads for people that don't know.
So you started Budgets Are Sexy in what, 2008?
February of 2008, yep.
Okay, and then a point came when you were making enough money to quit your job. When was that?
So in 2010, I thought, well, I had a friend of mine who was also a blogger said, hey, I'm done blogging, I'm moving, I'm going to shut this thing down. And I thought, why are you going to shut it down? It makes money. You should like try and sell it to someone, right? And so he eventually convinced me to buy it when I didn't know what I was doing or want it. And so from doing some other stuff, I realized, you know what, if I had more time to spend on this, I could make more money. But more importantly, I can work from home maybe and have like freedom, right? And so towards the middle of 2010, I don't know, I think I was probably making maybe $3,000, $4,000 a month. So what's that? Maybe like $40,000 a year. 50,000 a year, and my normal job was about 85,000. And I thought, well, I'm just going to bank as much of this money as I can. My goal is to hit 50,000 in a savings, like as a conservative, emergency fund, right? And I've never been self-employed. I never even wanted to. I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. Like I never thought about any of that stuff. But I, know enough about money at this point to pay attention. And so my goal was to hit 50,000. And then if I can build up the courage, I'd quit my job and I'd be this awesome full-time blogger person, right?
Right.
And so I got to about 42,000, I think it was, 43. It was December. It was the last week right before we took break for Christmas and all that stuff. And I think, you know what, it was a Friday. And I told my wife in the morning, I thought, I don't know, maybe I'll just put in my 2 weeks now and, just make it a new year, to do my own thing, right? I literally, that same morning, I walk into the office. Everyone's acting really weird. My phone was blowing up. I was a little late. And I walk in, everyone's just staring at me. And I get called into the director's office. And he's like, hey, sit down. I need to tell you something. And I thought, I have something to tell you too, but you go first, right? And he's like, unfortunately, we have to lay you off.
Unbelievable.
What? I literally, it was like a movie, And I thought, well, this is so weird. And I started smiling. He was like, why are you smiling, dude? And I said, well, I was going to offer, I was considering putting in my 2 weeks, right? And the problem with this stuff, so that was a good, perfect situation. I didn't have a choice in the matter. I got laid off. I had planned well enough. And ultimately, I wanted to be on my own. But because I'm conservative and I'm worried and I'm nervous and, I didn't know what to do. My wife's in grad school, so I have a big chunk of income. It's hard to pull the trigger, And I don't know if I still would have done it that day or not. But that was my intentions.
Right.
And so it was a really good thing. I didn't have to worry what if our company turns around and makes millions and I'm out on it. So it was a perfect ending and a perfect beginning into the next chapter.
Were you scared?
I was extremely scared. I was more kind of excited and shocked, but I got scared when I called my wife, and it was actually on her birthday too. And I said, hey, I think I'm gonna go to a bar at the Friday and just unwind. I just got laid off. And she was kind of freaking out a little bit. She's like, well, what do you mean? And I thought, well, I'll explain it to you later. And oddly enough, I had the week before talked to a friend that had her own design company up in Bethesda, Maryland. And she said, hey, if you ever need an extra office or a desk, you can rent one for me and you're in a collaborative space if you want to work on your own kind of thing. And I thought that would be cool. So I took a tour of it the week before and I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go up there and say, hey, I just got laid off. Can I have a desk? And so I did. I packed my stuff up. About 2 hours later, I was at a new office, my own little computer and desk, had a beer with a friend at a bar, and that kind of calmed me. But, it is scary. And so when I came home, my wife said, all right, well, tell me what the deal is here. I'm freaking out. And we pretty much came up with the decision, this is my dream. So she said, look, go 6 months, see what happens after 6 months. If you're great, keep going. If not, start looking for a job. And so that was my goal. I told her I'd do it for 6 months. I'm not going to look for a job. At the end of that, we'll figure it out. And I was good. And I went the whole year. And now it's been, 3 years. I looked out of fun, but yeah, I never applied to a job after that.
The rest is history, as they say, right?
That's it, man.
So
it's kind of crazy.
Did your income from your websites ever go above what you were making at the job you got laid off of?
Yeah, so at that point, I think I was making 45 or 50, and I had enough in savings. I started saving a little money because I didn't commute anymore, and then not eating out and that stuff helped. At that point, I had my site, I had another site, and I kind of thought, well, I need to up my game. Let me start buying more blogs because I could figure out how to make money off of them. So I started snatching up some sites when people left or they wanted to shut it down, and all the sites together. I think after the first year, I was at 80,000. I was 90,000, so I was pretty much the same. At the end of year one alone, I was making the same as I was at my full-time. Now, mind you, I was making my full-time plus the 50,000.
Right.
So it's still a drop of income, but I had replaced it after a year. And then I did a philanthropy project, and I kind of took a break. I still made money. And then last year was my best year. So after year two, Last year, I think I brought in, after expenses and everything, about 150,000.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Yeah, really good. This year, or I mean, that was the end of 2012. End of 2013, which was last year, we're about 90,000. So definitely less, but because I've been changing things up on purpose. Well, and then some stuff out of my control too. But
Right. You made a reference to a philanthropy project. Is that Love Drop?
yes, that's Love Drop.
That was phenomenal. Can you tell folks what you did? I think this was just an amazing project you undertook.
Thank you, man. Yeah, the idea was, so I'm into money, but I was really sucking at giving back, even though I wanted to. And I mean, the problem I have is there's no company or cause quote that like I really connected to. And when I send money, I kind of want to see direct, what happens to that money kind of thing. And one of my friends at the time, Nate St. Pierre, who I met on Twitter, oddly enough, was really into philanthropy, but sucked at money. So we kind of joined up and said, let's do something together, money related and philanthropy. And the goal was, let's raise money online. And then once a month, we'll surprise a family that needed help. And we got submissions from our members. We'd fly to their house or drive, depending on where it was, but mainly flew, show up, present them with all the money and gifts and stuff. People would send in, they'd knit scarves, they'd send in money, they'd send food, whatever the family needed. They would send over, and then we'd hand deliver it. But more importantly, we'd film it and show everyone, last week when you gave us that $10, here it is. We're physically handing it to the family you directly helped, right? And that was a big connection and something that was really important to me. And it was fun. We traveled the country. We helped people. Their families got involved. We've been places where it was just us and the people we were helping. And then we've been places where it was a family and then like 30 of their family and friends. It was like a big, huge party.
Wow.
And people from, just like every, Joe Schmo, people off the streets came to help. People at like big companies helped. The CEO at Cinnabon came to one and helped us out and got some snacks for us and stuff. And so it was really good experience. And, after a year, it kind of became our full-time job, and we obviously weren't making money. And so we kind of had to step back and analyze time. And oddly enough, towards the end, we're helping a family of triplets that were born premature. I think they were like 2 pounds or 3 pounds each. They were tiny. And we had shopped all day at Babies R Us we had like $1,500 of money to spend towards baby stuff for them. I get in the car and my wife calls me and is like, I think I'm pregnant. And I was like, what? This is crazy. I've been shopping for babies. I don't know anything about babies. And that was towards the end. And I thought, you know what? Let's wrap it out after a year. I need to focus on my baby. I need to make sure my money's okay, right? And so we made it a year project. We raised almost about 95,000.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It was fun, yeah. And then, we moved on, and it still to this day is a fun thing to, think about.
Are those videos still available online for people to look at?
Yeah, they are. They're out on lovedrop.us.
Okay, I'll link to that in the show notes.
Okay.
I mean, I remember when you did it, and I thought it was fantastic. And it was just a very creative way and a very real and tangible way to give back to people.
Thank
you. You guys deserve a lot of credit, because I know that consumed a ton of time.
A lot of time, but it was worth it, and it was perfect timing too. I can't do stuff like that now with, as as a family man, different priorities,
Right. Sure. So have you had, we've heard about successes. Have you had any failures along the way?
Yeah, I've had a ton of failures. And it's funny because last year when things were up, so when I was making up to 150, everything kept going well. I literally thought, like, everyone that I talk to in entrepreneurs, they always say you have to have failures because it helps you grow from it, all that stuff. And I thought, well, that's great, but nothing's ever really failed. And it's a good problem to have, right? And I think I don't know if I jinxed myself or if I started changing. I don't know what happened, but literally the next 2 projects I started and then I invested in money and time, both did pretty bad. And I think I lost maybe like $15,000.
Wow.
And time too. I learned a ton, but I lost money. And to me, like, if it's a business, really the point is to make money. That's what a business is. And so, I wouldn't take it back, but it was funny how that kind of happened, and I'm grateful for it. So I understand now, but it still, sucks.
What did you learn from the experience? Can you give us a few examples of things you learned?
Yeah, I learned not to rush into things and just put money in just because you have it. The beauty of when you're hustling or when you have the dream of, say, like working on your own, is you don't have much money and you're scrappy, And so if someone offered me to invest in something, I'd say I have no money, but hey, maybe I can do this, right? Or take a smaller percentage. And so what happens when you have more money that's, it's not like flowing or anything, but I had maxed out my investment stuff and it was extra money for whatever, right? And I thought, well, it's perfect for business. I didn't really, do too much. I mean, I trusted the people, everything's good. They're my friends, but for some reason there was a disconnect, and then the project just didn't do as well as we'd hoped. So I think what I learned is, don't throw in money if, unless you kind of know it's going to be a success or there's a proven track record. And both things that I did, there was no track record, it was new. And so you have the challenge of, well, this is going to take off, I'm going to make a ton, or it's going to fail and I lose it, right? So I knew that going in, but if I had to do it over, I probably just would have put in more time and less money.
Okay. Right.
Because the beauty of money is you can be more of a passive investor too, like with stocks, for example, or someone like I had people say, hey, look, I just need 15,000. I have this company, it's going well. And it's really, kind of, exciting and like, oh man, I can just give them money and do nothing and get money in return, And so I started going down that path. And actually there was another company that I said, hey, I'll invest 15,000. And she said, well, I don't need it. I can get it elsewhere. And 2 months later, the whole company burned and went down.
Oh man.
So luckily I avoided that, but I still lost it elsewhere. So, you live, right?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sure I'll fail again, if we talked in a year from now.
I'll tell you, I bought a website, and I paid, I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, I paid $30,000 for a website.
Wow.
That the year before had made about $30,000.
Nice.
Right. That sounds good, doesn't it? Except that, and I learned a ton on this. I learned more. I mean, it's maybe for another podcast about due diligence and buying a website. That was a couple of years ago, and so far it's made me about $3,000.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, that one hurts. That one hurts. But you do learn more from your failures than you do your successes. At least that's been my experience. So, what are you working on now? You've got Budgets Are Sexy. What else do you got going on?
So my newest project, I started about 3 or 4 months ago. It's called rockstarfinance.com. And so one of the things, so I've been building projects and I've had other sites that have started and didn't do well, so I shut them down. And I'm kind of like, after a while of that, you're kind of like, well, I had one success. That was Budgets Are Sexy. Like, what do I like from it? What do I don't like? What can I do like in a perfect world, right? Like if I can just do one job or whatever, not even a job, what would it be? And I kind of pieced these together, and that's what became Rockstar Finance. And the general, purpose of it is pretty much to showcase my favorite financial blog posts or sites that are out there. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. It looks like Pinterest, kind of, I guess. It's visual, and all I do is I put 3 articles that I think are fun or interesting about money online. And so the work itself isn't, for me. So my purpose was I wanted something that was fun. I wanted to network with tons more people that I was doing. And I was tired of kind of promoting my own stuff all the time. Because as a blogger and a business guy, you're always promoting your own stuff, like that's the point. You build something or write something. Now I got to get it out for millions of people to see, And so this site is more about other people. And then, I can follow along. I can use all the knowledge I have. And I don't know, it's more of a networking fun thing. And it started making money after month 1 because I, know how to do things now. But that's it. So it's rockstarfinance.com. You can go and learn and find all other cool blogs, because at the end of the day, DoughRoller is awesome. Budgets is awesome. But, people want more than just our sites.
Right. Of course.
So I try and feature the best on your site, the best on my site every now and then, best of other people's, and hopefully that draws people in and gets them to, stay motivated and pay attention to money, which is the point of, this why I'm online, really.
How did you, the first step in making money online with a website like Rockstar Finance, of course, is to get people to visit it, right? If you don't have any visitors, you can't make any money.
Yes.
So can you just maybe in a nutshell, particularly for those that may be thinking about starting a blog or a website, how did you promote the website? How did you get traffic?
So one thing I realized, if you have something successful, if you have something else that's in the related niche, it's super easy to market it because you already have people going to your original successful thing. So I thought, well, Rockstar Finance is very similar. It's money related and blog related. I'm going to promote it on Budgets Are Sexy. I'm going to promote it on my Twitter, on my Facebook. Everywhere I go, I'm going to promote that site, right? Or at least with the tools that I have. So I started doing that. That generated traffic. What I quickly kind of found out was there's a ton of sites that are similar to Rockstar Finance, just not relating to money. Like Life Hacker is a perfect example, like how to do tricks in life, right? Consumerist is another one. And what I realized is a lot of these people, they kind of curate articles too. So they started paying attention to mine and said, well, I'm going to look at Rockstar and take some of those and promote those on my site because he's already done the work to filter. So that's helped, and I didn't really see that one coming. But mainly it was promoting off of my own stuff. But the newest thing that I love, and this actually applies to anyone, and I've started doing a month ago, was every time I promoted someone on the site, I would just shoot them an email. And I'll say, hey, I loved your article on paying off debt. I featured it on my site. Just want to let you know, hope you're well, right? Or nice to meet you. And that's it. It's just a nice little email. And that has opened up a lot of doors and friendships and connections that I didn't really see coming, but it's a good output. And so now going forward, whether it's this site or any other site, I'm going to do that for everything, is just email the person that I'm talking about or whatever and get them, because what they do, if they like your stuff, they'll share it with their people, right? And if you're featuring them, then even more reason for them to share.
Yeah, I found that to be true with this podcast. When I interview folks, well, like you,
right?
I'll send them a link when the podcast goes live, and I don't ask them for anything. I just say, "Here's the link. Thank you for being on the show." Yeah. And sometimes they'll share it with their audience or their platform. Sometimes they don't, and that's fine. I'm not, right. That's kind of the way things go. And but you do get those folks that will share, and it helps build the podcast or in your Rockstar Finance build your site. And
I'm going to share this as once it goes live and you send it to me.
Man, I can't wait, man.
I know you do a lot of talking.
No, but seriously, in some ways, there's sort of a lesson to be learned there, because it's a lot bigger than just a blog or being online. Right. Sometimes it's just a matter of kind of being generous, I guess. And for me, I'll tell you, my biggest hurdle is just I get so busy, and it's like I get so focused in my own little world. And it's not that I don't want to share other people's stuff, but the kids, the family, the blog, and sometimes you got to say, wait, let's just slow down here, right. Because there's a lot of good stuff out there, and that's one of the things that I've enjoyed about this podcast. As I interview, folks like you and other folks that I've interviewed, you get different perspectives, and it just opens it up, and you get more of a community. So, well, that's
you're right. And the community, sorry not to sidetrack you, but the community to me is a big piece of this kind of stuff. The community, well, it helps grow your site and everything, but like at the end of the day, like whether it's, like it's you, it's me, like we're all people. And at the end of the day, when you're going to sites and you're talking, even though I have, let's say like 5,000 people reading, it's still like one person reading and then another person reading it at the same time, Right. So connecting to that person or helping that one person is cool. It's a cool feeling.
Well, there are some people I think that seem to have a knack of building communities. And you're definitely one of them. I mean, as I mentioned at the beginning, you're sort of the connector, but I'm just looking at your blog. I mean, you put your net worth up today, and you've already got 16 comments. And yesterday, I'm just reading it, a date with the dentist you wrote about, and that can't be fun. Anyway, you've got 50 comments. I mean, you've done a great job of building a community on Budgets Are Sexy. And in some ways, to me, it's just an extension of your personality. I mean, I think anyone listening to this podcast can just sense your enthusiasm and your energy. And, when we go to FinCon, you're talking to everybody.
Right,
it's just who you are, and I think everyone I know in the personal finance blogging community, I probably met them through you. I mean, it's just crazy. And so you do a fantastic job of building a community.
Thank you.
All right. So before I let you go, I'm looking at your net worth, and I got to ask you a few questions. We got to bring this back down to some solid personal finance questions. Can I grill you for a couple of minutes here?
Yeah. Shoot, go for it.
All right. So I'm looking at your net worth. Your net worth, I guess this would have been as of December 31st of 2013, $443,561.57. Now,
Yes.
which is fantastic. You have almost $72,000 in cash. Why is that?
Two reasons. One, I'm self-employed and who knows what the internet's going to do. Two, my wife is a lot more conservative than I am. And for me to do this, she wants at least 6, 7, 8 months of expenses saved in there. And three, I need to max out my SEP IRA, which is going to be about 15, 20,000. And so part of that is allocated to that, but mainly it's just a safety blanket security thing. We'd rather have savings and cash, even if it's not making anything, than a little extra by investing it.
You know what I love about that answer is it's clear you've given some real thought to how you're allocating your capital. You've got this cash there. You've got reasons for it. I mean, and boy, you just routed them off, and those are all good reasons.
Every time I do net worth, that's like the number one question.
Yeah. Well, I'm the same way with my emergency fund. I tend to go beyond just your standard 3 months of expenses or 6 months of expenses.
Right.
And do you just keep it in a high interest online savings account, or where do you keep the cash?
I keep all my stuff at USAA.
Okay.
It's not particularly that much, like the banking itself isn't that great compared to other stuff. It's definitely not high yield interest. But for me, what I find is having everything simplified and in one spot, takes me a lot farther. So rather than having a bank account here and an investment here and insurance, online or car insurance here and homeowners here and all that and credit cards, I just have it all literally I have 18 accounts at USAA on purpose besides my mortgage.
Okay. So I'm looking at your net worth again, and you've got, I guess, 3 different kinds of IRAs: a SEP for your self-employment savings. You got a Roth, and you've got a traditional. I guess that's a deduct. Is that maybe a rollover from your employer?
Yeah. So when I had my 401k, which is my all-time favorite tool in the whole world, because you get the free matching. I maxed out the 16.5 back in the day. My company would match 16.5, and I just friggin' pumped that thing as best as I could. When I got laid off, I had to roll it over, right. Especially because there was some shadiness in our company. I definitely had to roll it over, and so the option at that point was, there's a lot, but I picked traditional IRA. Yeah. When I got on the phone with them, they kind of said, what kind do you want? And this was USDA. Do you want, to manage it yourself? Do you want us to manage it? Do you want kind of a hybrid? And I thought, man, I have no idea. First, I'm horrible with investing. If you tell me a stock tip and I like you, I might just do it because I trust you, right?
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm
uh-oh.
Marketer's dream for that.
Alert.
Yeah, so I thought, well, at least these are these are mutual funds, so I can't get in too much trouble, right? They're not like stocks, individuals. And I thought, well, I don't know which one's better. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to do a test. I think it was 180,000 I had to roll over. I said, put 60,000 in a portfolio that you recommend, and I'll manage it myself. Put 60,000 in one that's you manage, that's all USAA funds. And then put another 60,000 in that you're still managing, but it's a mix of USAA funds and outside company funds.
Okay.
And so every month I'd track it and see which pot was doing better. I don't know if you've looked already, but you want to take a guess?
I'm going to guess yours.
Yes. I think mine, I'm not looking at it, but I think it's been up 6 or 7 or 10,000 over the others.
Well, is that how you're still managing it? Those 3 buckets?
Yeah, it's still that way currently. I've been and I haven't been particularly happy with it. I'm just lazy. I don't feel like dealing with it, and it's been doing well, overall, which because the market's up, so I haven't really paid attention. And so lately, I've been reading a lot of those extreme retirement blogs, like Mad Scientist and J.L. Collins and Mr. Money Mustache, and those guys. I swear, and it seems like the whole world, swear by Vanguard. They love them, and they literally have like all their money in one, or three funds max, and they're all Vanguard funds, index funds. And I don't really know the difference between a lot of stuff. And I started researching it. And anyways, for the last 2 months, I'm pretty much convinced, A, I don't want to touch it really. B, like index, I'd rather just track the market, and I'm fine with that. If the market's doing well, I do well. If it's tanking, I don't mind, right? I'm young, I can deal with it. And so my plan at this point, unless you or someone else, convinces me otherwise, is to roll over all those 3 accounts and put it into one. At least the 3 traditionals into 1 traditional.
Well,
over at Vanguard.
I'm curious. Was for the investments that USAA was managing for you?
Yeah.
Did they charge you a management fee?
Yeah, they do. I don't know what it is off my head. It's low, but I don't think it's like super low. I think it's like 1%, if I want to say. I could be totally wrong. So they were.
J Money, you're killing me here. You are just killing me.
Maybe it's not 1%. Is that a lot? I don't know. But
I'm gonna send you a link to an article I wrote about how 0.5% in extra fees that you can avoid can ruin your retirement account.
Okay, well then, yeah.
And I'm gonna link to it in the show notes. And I hope the hundreds of thousands of people that are listening to this go read that article. I mean, this is fantastic.
Yeah, so it's fine. No, I've actually called them, and I've been to USCA. They do blog stuff, and I've talked to them, and I said, hey, I'm doing this test, so we'll see once and for all, And they, I forget what they said. It's been like a year since I talked to them. It's something to do with the portfolio that I was managing didn't have a high percentage of money into gold and bullion, silver stuff, I guess, or whatever, commodities.
Yeah. And
the ones that they put me in did, and because of that, all going down. That's the reason for it, not management funds, but honestly, like who knows, right?
Well, why did they? How much of your money did they put into commodities like gold?
Oh, you think I'm going to be able to tell you that? I have no idea. I honestly don't. So the way it worked is I said, look, they asked me like all those questions, right? Are you risky? How old you are? What do you want to do with your money? Save it, grow it, whatever. And my answer to everything, I'm 30. I just turned 34. Is I want the most aggressive. I'm cool with, risk, and they're all mutual funds. So like, I can't be that like crazy aggressive. Right. And so they all put me in portfolios that were moderate to very aggressive, industry or, buckets or whatever.
Well, I can tell you, I'm a big believer in Vanguard, index funds. I mean, for what it's worth, it sounds like that's the direction you're headed anyway.
Yes.
And it's not even just Vanguard. I mean, index funds generally. And one of the reasons is because the costs are so low. And, most of the funds that I invest in at Vanguard, a lot of them have their expense ratio is about 10 basis points. So that's just 1/10 of 1%.
Okay.
And that's it. That's the total expense. Well, there's some trading expenses.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I think if you're doing your research and starting to look at low cost index funds, you're at least in my opinion, you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah, and the thing I realized too with even business stuff is, certain people are good at certain things and they have a preference, right? Like there's people that chase like the best interest rates or the best rewards for like credit cards, right? What the heck? My mom's calling.
That's okay. That's real life.
And so, so people are good at whatever. And the trick to me, and this is business life, is kind of figuring out what you're good at and what you're comfortable with and what you kind of want your lifestyle to be. And to me, instead of like, oh, I want the best interest in the savings account, or I want the best rewards to get out of this credit card, and then I'll cancel it and I'll move to another one. I'm going to transfer my money out in 3 months and get a better rate. Like all that, it just complicates and gives me a headache. I want something that's like 80% good, and I don't want to touch it as much as possible. And then I'm just free flowing, and I'm one happy dude.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said about simplifying your finances.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
For sure.
It's not always a financial thing at the end of the day, too. Like, if I knew, even if you told me, hey, if you switch to this fund in 100 years, you're going to have like $1 million more. But it's like I'm already have 15 million. It doesn't convince me. Mm-hmm. I'd rather have 15 million than 60 million and have a better life.
Well, like I said, I think if you're moving in the direction of managing your own index funds, you're moving in a positive direction, at least from my perspective. Hey, real quick before I let you go, and I appreciate your time. You mentioned a couple of websites. Was that Mad Find? What was that?
Yeah, mad scientist instead of scientist, because he's a financial or financial independence.
Okay, I'll link to him. I'm not familiar with that site, so I'm going to look it up and I'll link to it in the show notes. And I know Mr. Money Mustache. I interviewed him just a few podcasts ago. But what was the second one?
I always forget it. What it's because there's like all these. I think it's JL Collins.
Okay. All right.
Something like that. He was at FinCon.
I'll look him up.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's JL Collins, maybe NH, like NewHampshire.com.
Okay.
Yeah. He's been retired for many 30 years or something. He's one of those guys that has like one or two funds and that's it. It's all in there. But these guys are all about, as you know, if you interviewed, Mr. Money Mustache, not needing much expenses to live, maxing out all their retirement tools, having plenty to live, be happy, quote, retire, when they're in their 30s and enjoy life forever.
Right. Sure.
Which, of course, is a dream. It takes a lot of hard work. And as I'm realizing, it's very not easy. Even me that I pay attention, there's a lot of things that you have to do in order to get to that point. But if that's your dream, then these guys are the best to get there.
So what's the future for Budgets Are Sexy and Rockstar Finance? How do you mentioned your income was down a little bit in 2013. Yeah. What do you see for 2014?
I think honestly, what's making me happier in my family and life is I've gotten to that point where I work so hard and I hustle and I'm just like, I'm not burnt out, but I'm realizing like business is not like the end all be all, right? I want to have time now that I have kids. I want to spend more time with them. I want to, be able to not think, when you're self-employed, it's all you all the time. You can't just step away and forget about it because it's your job. Your career or your whole business, really. And so for 2014, my goal is to simplify more and get rid of all the projects and all the things I'm doing that I don't care about. I still own some other sites that I don't really care about, but it makes income. And so my goal is to just have Budgets Are Sexy and Rockstar Finance, even if that means less money, but at least I'd be doing the things that kept me sane and were what I'm truly passionate about.
Well, hey, man, I appreciate your time today and sharing your experience and, building your business. It's just an amazing story how you've gone from a hobby to a full-time business. And appreciate your time. Wish you the best, man.
Thanks, man. If anyone has questions, just shoot me an email or tweet me or find me on Budgets Are Sexy and happy to help anyone out.
Great. Appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Jay. If you have any questions about making money blogging, don't hesitate to email me. I've been doing this since 2007. I've learned a ton about building websites, blogs, how to monetize them, how to market them, how to get traffic. One of the fun things about all of this is you never stop learning. I'm learning as much today as I ever did. But after doing this for a while, sometimes you take for granted what you know. Maybe you've had this experience in whatever area of expertise you have for your day job or whatever. You tend to take it for granted, and you tend to think it's, what it is? I think you tend to think it's not special because, and that it's simple maybe. And yet when you talk to someone who's trying to get into a certain field, or in this case, perhaps blogging, and they have some basic questions like, what's a good domain and how do you set up hosting and, what's the software you use that runs a blog and, how do you some very basic questions. How do you put stuff in the sidebar and how do you create a menu at the top and what should you write about first? And, the list goes on. And you realize, it's like you forget what it was like when you started out. And when I think back to 2007, when I started DoughRoller, I didn't know a thing. I mean, I was on Google day and night searching for everything. I didn't have a clue. And so, if it's something that you want to perhaps start a blog or give it some thought, and you have some questions, don't hesitate to email me. I'll be happy to help you out. And in fact, tomorrow we're going to have another interview with a friend of mine named Steve who has a slightly different story from Jay's, but it's still an online story, but his is more of a sort of e-commerce story about actually having inventory and selling products online. So that'll be kind of a different twist, and I think you'll enjoy that as well. And so that'll be in tomorrow's episode. And that brings this episode to a close. As always, you can get the show notes. Just go to DoughRoller.net /podcast 34. As always, you can email me at dr@doughroller.net. I read every email, respond to every email. You can also leave a voicemail. Just go to doughroller.net / oops, wrong. Go to speakpipe.com / DoughRoller for the voicemail. You can leave a voicemail right from your computer. If you haven't already, subscribe to this podcast by going to doughroller.net / iTunes. That will redirect you to the iTunes page where this podcast resides. And you can also leave a review. Love to get reviews. Love to get your thoughts on how I'm doing and how I can make the show better. And last, if you haven't signed up for our newsletter, you can do so at doughroller.net / newsletter. Goes out every Saturday, packed full of resources and tips to help you make the most of your money. So until next time, remember, the best thing money can buy is financial freedom.